4,000 wheelchair gift after my daughter-in-law's surgery leads to shocking dinner revelation. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting twisted shadows across the quiet street, the air thickened with an unsettling tension. No one could have predicted that the seemingly innocent family dinner would spiral into chaos. They gathered around the table, each face illuminated by the flickering candlelight, hiding secrets beneath the surface. Just days after Sarah's extensive surgery, her husband, Jake, decided to surprise her with a 4,000 electric wheelchair, a gesture meant to lift her spirits and ease the burden of recovery. But as soon as the chair rolled into the living room, the atmosphere shifted. The murmurs turned to gasps. All eyes darted to Sarah, her expression a blend of shock and something else, something darker. Later, as Jake began to speak about the chair, something strange caught his mother's attention. A shimmer in the corner of the room, near the windows. It was a framed photo, half hidden under old newspapers that had accumulated over months. When she leaned closer, her heart began to race. In the picture, a smiling woman bore an uncanny resemblance to Sarah, but it was taken years ago, before Sarah was even born. Was it a simple coincidence or something far more sinister? As Jake's mother shared this discovery, protests erupted. "You can't bring up family secrets at a time like this," Jake shouted, his fists clenching, sending a jolt of fear through the table. The tension was palpable, thick enough to slice through with a knife. Voices raised higher, shaking the very foundation of their family bond. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But the night was far from over. A chilling silence enveloped the room as Jake shot a wicked glance at his mother, his eyes revealing a depth of resentment that was unsettling. How deep did these family secrets run? The clinking of silverware had long stopped, replaced by a suffocating void of unspoken words. They knew something had to be revealed, a shared history buried under years of silence, something that could change everything. Was Sarah truly who she claimed to be? And what did that picture mean? The questions hung in the air like storm clouds, ready to unleash the torrential downpour of family secrets long kept at bay. As tension simmered, a piece of paper slipped from under the kitchen table, unnoticed by everyone but Jake. He reached for it, his heart pounding like a war drum. He couldn't escape the feeling that whatever was written on that paper would shatter their world as they knew it. Would he dare to reveal what was on it? Jake's fingers trembled as he grasped the paper. It felt fragile, as if it contained ghosts that could burst into the open, long-hidden truths waiting for their moment. He stole a glance around the table. Everyone was entrenched in their own spirals of anxiety or anger, oblivious to the revelation that could explode at any moment. His heart pounded rapidly. What if it was exactly what they feared? His face flushed with dread. He couldn't bear the idea of exposing their fractured history in front of Sarah. What good would it do? And yet, silence paralyzed him, twisting tighter than his gripping anxiety. "Jake!" His mother's voice wrenched him from his reverie. "What was that? What did you find?" The sharpness in her tone rattled him. He hesitated, the decision weighing heavily on his shoulders. But before he could form a response, Sarah spoke up to diffuse the gathering storm. "Look, it's been a long day, and I appreciate the wheelchair. I do. Let us not turn this into a big thing." The room shifted momentarily, her softness like a balm over raw emotions. But Jake wasn't convinced. He slammed the crumpled paper against the table, the sound sharper than any knife. All eyes turned toward him, and for a split second, the chaos was overshadowed by a loaded silence. "Maybe we need to talk about this now." "Maybe it's time," Jake said, his voice a low growl. He straightened, ready to unleash whatever was in his grasp, but doubt consumed him once more. "Let it go, Jake," hissed his father, unmistakably anxious. Some things are better left in the past. Jake's pulse throbbed in his ears. His father's warning rang like a death knell, but the fire within him fiercely protested. As he scanned the table, everyone wore fearful faces lit by flickering candles. Was this what their family had become, masterpieces of concealment and fear? The picture, the paper, they weaved a tapestry of deceit. Questions gnawed at Jake's insides like rats. Was Sarah the missing piece of a misguided puzzle? His body tingled, a mix of unease and determination blooming inside him at the prospect of what lay ahead. Sarah, he finally managed, locking his gaze onto hers, what do you know about your past? Her eyes flared, revealing a tempest roiling beneath her tranquil surface. What do you mean? My past is nothing. Are you sure? Jake interrupted, thrusting the crumpled paper across the table toward her. This might change everything. Gasps erupted, and Sarah recoiled slightly, her hands trembling over the printed words. The tension crackled in the air like static electricity, charged and ready to explode. What is this? She asked, her voice wavering between fear and curiosity. Jake's heart raced as he watched her take the paper with shaking fingers. The moment stretched, a taut line about to snap, and in that pivotal silence, the ground beneath them shifted. Suddenly, there came a knock at the door, loud and jarring, as if it had dared to shatter the delicate web they were ensnared in. Everyone froze, shifting uneasy glances, but it was Jake who broke the stillness. Who could it be? The question hung in the air, heavy with foreboding. As Sarah lowered the paper, dread settled into her expression. No one dared to move. All eyes were now fixed on the door. Something was about to break, something was about to be revealed. Who was just outside, waiting? The second knock came, louder and more insistent, echoing through their tense silence like an ominous drum. Jake's skin prickled. Everyone exchanged glances, unease bubbling up, momentarily washing away the weight of what had just unfolded. Jake, his mother's voice trembled. Do you think? Should we open the door? He felt the heat of confrontation building inside him, a wicked mix of curiosity and dread. I don't know, but we can't just ignore it. His father's jaw tightened. We can't let it in, whatever it is. What if it's more trouble? But Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the knock was a signal, like the start of a race. They were already deep in the chaos, turning back now was not an option. He rose from the table, paper still in hand. Each step toward the door felt like wading through molasses, the air heavy and thick with anticipation. As he reached for the doorknob, a burst of breath swept out of him, like the first gasp after diving deep underwater. His heart thrummed relentlessly, a tattoo of urgency on his chest. He twisted the knob and pulled the door open with a creak that sliced through the tension, exposing a figure cloaked in shadows. Who are you? Jake stammered, reeling backward slightly but not breaking eye contact. The figure stepped forward, face illuminated by the flickering candlelight inside, revealing scruffy hair and tense features. Do you remember me, Jake? The voice was gravelly yet unmistakably familiar, sending a shiver down his spine. Memories clawed at his mind, fragments of laughter, a distant sense of safety, and then nothing. Chad. It slipped past his lips, breathlessly. Yes, it's me. The man's eyes searched Jake's. I need to talk to you. Now. Behind him, the bewildered expressions of his family flickered like candle flames caught in the wind. Was it the same boy from his childhood, the one who vanished into thin air? Desperation pinched Chad's features, casting a shadow of worry that felt otherworldly. Jake hesitated, uncertainty weighing heavily. How could Chad possibly change the course of their fragile evening? Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts, a mixture of concern and a hint of fear lacing her tone. Who is he? He's an old friend. The words hung in the air, carrying weight more profound than he intended. The truth of their youthful bond lay beneath layers of past quarrels, unresolved emotions, and dashed expectations. Old friend? Chad scoffed lightly, his tone softening a touch. And I suppose your family is just going to stand there? Jake felt sweat gathering on his brow. What do you want, Chad? I found something, he said, glimpsing briefly at the paper still clasped in Jake's hand. Something that could change everything for all of us, including Sarah. Instinctively, Jake's grip tightened around the crumpled paper, protective yet curious. What do you know about her? Chad inhaled sharply. More than you think, and it's not just about her. It ties to all of us. Please, just hear me out. Jake felt the ground shift again beneath him. His fingers shook, not just from anxiety but anticipation. As if the walls of their existence could crumble at any moment, and truth would spill forth. Before he could respond, Sarah stepped closer, her expression resolute yet terrified. What are you talking about? This is not the time for games. Chad's gaze flicked from Sarah to Jake, determination igniting in his eyes. Games? This is anything but. I'm here to stop history from repeating itself, to prevent an even darker secret from coming to light. The dining room crackled with tension. Jake glanced around, feeling the weight of every accusing stare, every hidden truth hanging in the air. What had they stumbled into? What hidden past was about to be revealed? As whispers and gasps echoed among his family, a chilling realization washed over him. The door had opened, and something ugly yet important was about to step inside. Let us talk, Jake finally said, pushing his fear aside as he stepped back, allowing Chad inside. What had his family done? What lay buried beneath their veneer? As Chad crossed the threshold, he added one last ominous line that echoed in the minds of all present. I've come to bring light to the shadows, and there's no going back after this. Who could have anticipated that this evening would uncover the hidden layers of their past? What truths were waiting to surface, and were they ready for the revelations to come? The air seemed to thicken as Chad stepped inside, casting an unsettling aura over the already strained atmosphere. A sense of dread wrapped itself around Jake like a cold blanket. His family remained rooted to the spot, their eyes darting between him and Chad, waiting for the revelation they sensed was about to unfurl. Close the door, Jake. His father's voice was a low rumble, stern yet laced with an undercurrent of fear. We need to talk about this. No, Chad interrupted, cutting through the tension with ruthless focus. We don't have time for games or what-ifs. This is serious. His eyes bore into Jake's, pleading for understanding. If I'm right, we're in deep trouble. Trouble? Sustained disbelief crackled in Sarah's tone. What does that even mean? Chad's gaze flicked toward her, his jaw tightening. It means everything you think you know about your family isn't true. There are scars, hidden truths that don't just affect you, but everyone in this room. He turned back to Jake, his expression grave. What I found, it ties into everything: your father's past, your mother's silence, Sarah's presence here. It looped us all in the moment I arrived. Jake felt his heart race. Just tell us what you found. Chad produced a small, worn-out folder from his jacket. It looked weathered, as if it had held too many secrets too long. He held it out, fingers trembling slightly, not just from anxiety but from the weight of revelation. You need to understand. These documents, they're connected to a name, one that's been long buried. Jake reached for the folder, but as his fingers brushed the surface, his mother gasped softly, the sound slicing through the room. No. That name is cursed. What do you mean? Jake shot back, his pulse quickening as a foreboding sense of dread washed over him. What name? Chad hesitated, glancing at Jake's parents before finally meeting his gaze again. The name is Mercer, and it's tied to everything. An electrifying silence descended, the kind that suggested a storm brewing just overhead. Jake felt his throat tighten. Mercer? That was a name he barely remembered, associated with a childhood he had thought was lighthearted and carefree. But the way it rolled off Chad's tongue sent a wave of nausea washing over him. His father, visibly distressed, stepped forward. You shouldn't have brought that here, Chad. You don't know what that will unleash. Unleash? Chad snapped. This is not about fear anymore, it's about survival. There are people who won't let us walk away from this. We've been too quiet for too long. Survival from what? Sarah's voice was sharp. She was trying to wrestle clarity from chaos. What does it mean if we talk about this now? Chad's face darkened. It means that something darker than our past is hunting us down, and it's time we fight back. Jake stood frozen, piecing together the fragments of the maze unfolding before him. Secrets were like venom, and right now, his family was holding onto a toxic reservoir that threatened to burst. He looked around the table, horror dawning in every set of eyes, including his own. What did you mean by darker secret? Chad took a deep breath, steeling himself. Because if you don't let me explain, someone could get hurt. As the room erupted into chaotic murmurs and anxious gasps, a sudden loud crack interrupted their noise, a loud thump reverberating from the back door. All eyes flew toward the sound, faces pale and lips pressed tight. The tension spiraled, and fear turned into a palpable force that made Jake's skin crawl. Chad narrowed his eyes, breathing heavily. They're here. Jake's heart stopped, the blood draining from his face. What? Who's here? But before anyone could respond, the door burst open with a bang, a dark figure emerging, silhouetted against the dim light. Looking for someone? A gravelly voice slipped into the crackling atmosphere, sending a jolt of terror through the gathered family. In that moment, Jake realized that uncovering the truth would have dire consequences they were wholly unprepared for. The stakes had just reached an alarming height, and the shadows had come to collect their due. What new terror awaited them at the hands of whatever darkness lay beyond the threshold? What secrets would prove fatal? The figure stepped fully into the light, revealing a man with rough features and a predatory glint in his eyes. His presence filled the small room like a dark cloud, suffocating and cold. Jake's heart raced wildly, every instinct screaming for him to flee, but his feet were rooted to the floor like cement. Who the hell are you? Jake's father demanded, his voice heavy with authority, but there was a tremor beneath it that betrayed his uncertainty. Just a friend, the man replied, casually adjusting a worn leather jacket that looked more suited for the shadows than any respectable gathering. There was an unsettling calmness to his demeanor, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling in the room. A friend of the Mercer family, at least a long time ago. Jake's stomach knotted as his father took a step backward, instinctively placing himself in front of his family. We want nothing to do with Mercer, he snapped, though his eyes flicked to Chad, a flicker of doubt dancing across his face. Ah, but that's where you're wrong, the man said, his lips curling into a sly smile. You can't deny your roots, can you? Sarah clutched Jake's arm, breath quickening as if she could feel the darkness emanating from the stranger. This is insane, she whispered, panic edging her voice. What do you want? The man stepped closer, invading their space with an air of menace that made Jake's skin prickle. Your family's secrets are old, but they've been alive long enough to find their way back. I wouldn't be so casual about them if I were you. Chad's grip on the folder tightened as he unfolded it slowly, the tension slicing through the atmosphere like a knife. Is this about the will? He asked, trying to maintain focus. The money from your father? The man laughed. It was a low, throaty sound filled with malice. There's more than money at stake, Chad. You think it's just whispers in the dark? Your family made promises they couldn't keep. And now, the time has come to collect. Jake's mind raced. Promises? What promises? This was a tangled web of threads he wasn't sure he wanted to untangle. He shot a glance at his parents, their expressions vacillating between anger and fear. What is he talking about? He demanded, voice trembling slightly. Words spoken many years ago, the man said, almost teasingly. The kind that can cost lives. Ones that have kept your family safe until now. He paused, letting the implications settle in the air, thick and terrifying. But not anymore. Before Jake could grasp what this meant, a loud crash erupted outside. The sound of shattering glass broke their focus, followed by hurried footsteps. Panic coursed through Jake as he instinctively moved closer to Sarah. What's happening? Who's out there? No one you want to deal with, the man smirked, casting a glance at the door. Trust me, It'll only get worse if you don't listen to what I have to say. He took another step forward, eyes gleaming with a twisted sense of satisfaction. I can guide you through this if you're willing to play the game. Otherwise, they'll find you. And when they do, they will not be merciful. Jake was left grappling with a whirlwind of questions. Who was this man? What was his game? And more importantly, who or what was waiting outside? For a fleeting second, the creeping dread was broken by an impulsive thought. If Jake didn't act now, his family would be ensnared in a nightmare from which they might never wake. He glanced at Chad, who looked equally lost yet determined. Are we really going to listen to him? Jake asked, desperation edging his voice. A pause filled the room, a moment when time seemed to stretch painfully long, leaving Jake caught between the stark realities of their past and the dark threat hovering at their door. Jake, Chad said slowly, if we don't confront this, we could lose everything. The shadows from outside crept closer, and Jake realized the fight wasn't against just a man in the doorway. It was a battle for survival against the very ghosts of their history that had returned to haunt them. What would they uncover about the past, and how far would they go to protect their future? As the door rattled under an unseen force, it was clear that they had only just begun to scratch the surface of dark family secrets, and they had mere moments to decide their fate. Jake's breath caught in his throat, the air thickening as the rattling escalated. Every second stretched into eternity, the flickering light bulb overhead casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls like specters. The stranger's face remained unreadable, a predator biding its time. Listen, Chad said, his voice low and urgent. Maybe we should hear him out. At least long enough to find out what's really going on. He glanced at his parents, seeking agreement. No way, Jake's father replied vehemently. This creep doesn't care about protecting us. He's using us to settle some old score. You can't play games with your life. Is that what you think this is? The man sneered, his lips curling up in a cruel smile. The games have been in play for decades, my friend. You're just now finding out you're part of it. A sudden crash followed by shouting outside shattered the already tenuous calm. Their hearts thudded violently in time with sudden flashes of light filtering through the old window, casting panic across their faces. Get down, Jake urged, pulling Sarah behind him as he instinctively shielded her. His mind raced. Who was out there? Friends, foes? Or something darker than anything they could imagine? The ominous figure stepped further into the room, using the distraction to close the distance between him and the family. You need to decide fast, he hissed. Either you listen, or you face the darkness that's coming for you. You don't even know the half of it. Enough. Chad snapped, a hint of desperation leaking through his bravado. If there's a threat out there, we need to fortify this place. Maybe we can find a way to sneak out the back. No, the man said sharply. You're already standing in the light, which will blind you to the escape route. Your family believes you're being hunted because of money. But it's much worse than that. What do you mean by that? Jake demanded, stepping forward, despite the gnawing feeling in his gut urging him to retreat. Your family has secrets that reach beyond money, he said, voice conspiratorial, glancing furtively at the door. Your lives were protected not by wealth, but by something ancient, a pact that has met its end. Suddenly, there was a loud bang on the front door, splintering the wood. Jake's heart sank. Time was running out. Why should we trust you? Jake shouted, frustration fueling his words. You're just feeding us fear. What you refuse to see is that fear is the least of your concerns. They're already aware of your every move, the man replied coldly, his eyes glinting with a darker truth. Once the predictions are fulfilled, the clock runs down on your family's safety. You'll learn soon enough how deep these roots go. The door jolted again, a loud crash echoing through the house as it shuddered under another blow. Jake, his father called out, panic evident in his trembling voice. We have to get out of here. Now. But Jake hesitated, torn between the instinct to flee and the undeniable sense that they were at a precipice, balancing on the edge of an abyss. The man took a step forward, reaching into his jacket. There was something flickering under his sleeve, glinting menacingly. "There's one thing you need to understand, Jake. Your safe escape hinges on a choice you're yet to make. Choose wisely." As the chaos outside intensified, the uncertainty paralyzed Jake. His family needed him, but the shadows loomed larger, threatening to engulf them all if he made the wrong call. What was the choice he had to make? And how would it alter the fate of his family? As the door burst open, revealing an ominous silhouette just beyond, Jake's heart raced. The moment was at hand, but was he ready to face it? The door exploded off its hinges, sending splinters flying like shrapnel. A figure cloaked in shadow filled the doorway, its presence casting an unnatural chill over the room. Jake's instinct screamed at him to run, but he was frozen, rooted to the spot with fear. "Get back!" he shouted, instinctively pushing Sarah further behind him. His heart thundered, the sound almost drowning out the chaos surrounding them. The newcomer stepped into the dim light, revealing a gaunt face tinged with madness. Eyes wide and thirsty, they locked onto Jake and his family. "I've found you," the figure hissed, revealing yellowed teeth. "You think you can hide? The time of reckoning is nigh." "Who are you?" Jake's father barked, attempting to regain control. "What do you want with us?" "Truth," the figure spat, a wild look in their eyes. "Truth and blood. It's all tied together." Chad tightened his grip on Jake's arm. "What kind of truth?" he asked, voice shaking but bold. "What kind of blood?" "The blood of betrayal runs deep within your walls." The figure screeched, clutching their head as if the voices echoed in their skull. "You've been sheltered for too long. It's time for the secrets to unravel. Time for the past to claim its due." Outside, sirens wailed and chaos erupted in the streets. People were shouting, running, and Jake could feel the panic seeping in through the broken door like a dark fog. "What do you know?" Jake demanded, lurching forward. "You have to tell us now. Your family made choices, Jake. Choices that bind your fate to curses you cannot fathom. They were not merely financial. You've traded the essence of your blood for a fragile peace," the figure rasped, voice laden with contempt. A shivering silence fell over them as the implication hung like a storm cloud. The stranger strode forward, driven by manic energy, their hands outstretched. "In every generation, a sacrifice must be made. Yours is upon you." Jake felt his chest tighten. Was he really hearing this? His mind raced through the implications, reeling at the thought of his family bound by some ancient pact, whatever it was threatening them now. "Enough!" the stranger yelled, slamming a fist against the wall. "You think you can turn away? They're coming. They've waited too long and can smell your fear." His mother stumbled back, her shaking hands clenching the edge of a table. Jake turned to his father, searching for guidance. "What do we do?" "Listen." The man in the shadows shouted, the darkness almost suffocating. "I can help. I know the way to break the cycle. You must choose to confront it, or your entire family will be extinguished." "Help from you?" Chad huffed, anger sparking. "Why should we believe a word you say?" The man's laughter echoed, sharp and bitter. "Because the real monster is already inside your walls and it's hungry." The entire room felt charged, the air heavy with impending doom. Jake's gut twisted as he glanced at his family, everyone on the brink of the nightmare unfolding around them. They needed a plan, but uncertainty gnawed at him. Chewing his lip, Jake finally forced out, "Tell us how to fight back. We won't let ourselves be victims." But as the stranger's lips curled into a knowing smirk, the air vibrated with the feeling that perhaps they had already lost more than they knew. Just then, the lights flickered ominously, and an unearthly howl pierced the night, sending a fresh wave of terror crashing over them. "Welcome to your family's reckoning," the figure murmured, voice almost a whisper now, dripping with foreboding. "Will you rise or be consumed?" Jake's heart raced as he glanced at the darkened shadows creeping through the doorway, feeling the weight of the unseen threat closing in. What choice lay before him? And as time slipped away, would he be able to save those he loved most? The air crackled with tension, thick enough to suffocate. The stranger's smirk deepened as shadows pooled around them, spilling like ink on an unraveling page. Jake felt the blood drain from his face as he stared into that void, terrified yet defiant. "Stop it!" Chad shouted, stepping forward. "We can fight you or whatever's coming. We won't just stand here." The cloaked figure tilted its head, a gesture that resembled mockery. "You think you can fight what has already taken root? What was born from your family's own greed? Foolish boy." A sudden crash echoed from the living room, startling Jake. He turned to see fragments of furniture splintering against the wall, with something dark spilling through the cracks of their reality. His heart raced. "What was that?" "Fear," the figure said, a hint of satisfaction in their voice. "Fear is the catalyst. It draws them closer." Jake's mother stumbled, her face pale and ashen. "We can't let them in, Jake. We can't." She grasped the edge of the table, knuckles white as panic clawed at her throat. "Listen," Jake said urgently, desperation creeping into his tone. "What do we need to do? We can't just let them take us." He could feel the tremor in his own voice, echoing his mother's fear-in response. The stranger took a step back, analyzing Jake, almost as if searching for the last shreds of resolve. "You need to uncover the truths hidden within these walls. Your family has a lineage entwined with dark promises. Each room holds echoes that will guide you or condemn you." "Uncover? How?" Chad yelled, moving in closer. "This isn't some twisted game." "Game?" The figure laughed, but it was a hollow sound devoid of amusement. "This is reality. The moment you entered this place, you stepped into a battleground of choices. Search deep, and you might just find hope hidden where shadows loom." Before Jake could respond, the lights blinked violently, and then, goodbye, everything went dark. His scream mingled with the frantic gasps of his family, total blackness swallowing them whole. The distant sounds of chaos resonated outside, growing increasingly frantic, but the family was trapped, locked in this suffocating void. "Stick together!" Jake shouted, reaching out to feel anyone near him. The air was unnaturally cold, the kind that turned goosebumps into a chilling sensation that clawed at his skin. From the shadows, a whisper echoed, singing sweetly yet menacing, laced with sinister riddles. "Tell me, what are you prepared to sacrifice?" "Shut up!" Sarah managed to shout, her voice trembling. Then it struck Jake her tone was just as terrified as his own. They were all equally vulnerable. "We need a plan. Find the light," Jake yelled, an idea sparking in his mind. "If this place is tied to the secrets, there must be something we can illuminate. Something that tells us what's hidden." "Jake!" his mother cried, her voice shaky, laced with fear. "Those shadows, there's something in them. I feel it watching." He felt it too, an instinctual dread wrapping around his heart. But they didn't have time to be afraid. If they were to fight back, they needed to find answers, and soon. "Tread carefully," he thought. The moment could break into chaos any second. They shared trembling breaths, the only connection they had in the eerie silence that ensued. As Jake moved forward, feeling the coolness of the floor beneath his feet, he made a silent vow. They would uncover whatever truth lay buried in their past, even at the cost of their safety. The shadows shifted, and the figure reappeared, mouth twisted into a wicked grin. "You think you can escape? They are already here. Your time is running out." Panic clutched at Jake's throat. He had to believe in their strength, their unity. But who would fall prey to fear? How deep did their family's sins run? Suddenly, a blinding light filled the room, casting away shadows and illuminating an exit. But something tumbled in the dark behind them. A familiar voice echoed a warning. "Leave now or suffer the consequences." Jake's heart raced. What had they stumbled into? And who truly was the monster in their midst? As the light began to pulse, the choice loomed before them. Would they choose to step into the light or succumb to the darkness lurking just beyond their reach? The blinding light enveloped them, momentarily banishing the suffocating darkness that threatened to consume. Jake shielded his eyes, squinting through the brightness. In the sudden glow, he could see the terrified faces of his family illuminated, expressions caught between hope and dread. "Mom, what do we do?" he shouted, but the clamoring thoughts in his mind drowned out his own voice. "We have to decide now. Stay together." Chad echoed, his voice strained, but he instinctively reached out, and Jake grasped his hand. The connection steadied him. As they stumbled toward the light, a deep, guttural growl reverberated from the shadows, sending fresh shivers down Jake's spine. He felt the temperature drop further, breath fuming in the air as the terrifying presence behind them seemed to loom larger, hungry to reclaim its lost hold. Without thinking, Jake threw a glance over his shoulder. Shadows slithered like dark serpents across the floor, writhing and searching, stretching toward them with a desperate hunger. He shuddered, panic squeezing his heart. "We can't look back." "Are you sure this is the right choice?" Sarah cried, her voice cracking as she clutched her brother's arm tighter. "What if it's another trap?" "There's no time." Jake snapped, hurriedly pulling them toward the pulsing light. "We have to move." As the light drew closer, he felt a pull, an energy that spoke of safety, of escape. But just as they reached the threshold, a fierce wind howled, sweeping through the room like a storm, knocking the family off balance. "Jake!" His mother screamed, her voice rising in terror as a shadow shot forward, aiming right for them. Instinct kicked in. "Move!" They all lunged toward the opening, but the dark force swirled around in haunting tendrils, trying to drag him back. Time slowed. Jake's heart hammered, and the light flickered, as though it was sensing their hesitation, about to fade. "We have to jump!" he yelled, and without waiting for a reply, he launched himself into the radiance, pulling his family along with him. They landed on solid ground, dazed but alive. As Jake glanced up, his relief crumbled into shock. The room seemed to pulsate with a warm glow, but eerie paintings covered the walls, each twisted face echoing torment. The air was thick, heavier than before, a warning that they were still not free. "There's got to be something here," Jake muttered, scanning the room. "Something that connects to what that figure said." Ignoring the chill that crept up his spine, he moved closer to a particularly large painting. The twisted figure in it caught his breath, a familiar face twisted in agony, pointing outward. Jake realized with a jolt, it was the portrait of a long-forgotten ancestor. Buried deep in the back of his mind, memories of family tales and dark secrets from holidays past flared up. The sacrifices written in whispers. "Jake, get away from it!" Chad shouted, his voice rising as if sensing the danger radiating from the image. But it was too late. The painting glimmered as if coming alive, the brush strokes shifting, shadows spilling out like smoke. The face in the painting twisted further, morphing into another visage, his grandmother, eyes wide with sorrow, fingers reaching out as if pleading for salvation. "Why?" Jake began, shaken. The atmosphere surged with energy, sensations clawing at his thoughts. What did we do? Their surroundings began to pulsate, churning shadows creeping closer. "What did you sacrifice for this?" The voice warned again, echoing in the corners of the room. "Not again." Jake could feel the shadows creeping, grasping at their legs, whispering dark promises of power and despair. The light was fading, twisting into a contorted form, the cycle not broken yet. "Find the truth, Jake," his mother urged, her voice laced with urgent fear. Now is not the time to hesitate. As he grappled for composure, Jake realized he had uncovered something more sinister than he ever imagined. He had merely opened a door to a darker chapter in their family's past, with the shadows clawing at them and the painting's watchful agony. Pouring life into the room, Jake faced the choice of fighting deeper or retreating into the unknown, a choice that could either lead them to freedom or drag them back into darkness forever. What would the truth cost them? And would anyone survive the revelations to come? The thick air of dread hung in the room like a storm cloud, oppressive and charged with urgency. Jake's heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing the tension that wrapped around them. He squeezed his family's hands tighter, feeling the pulse of their fear mingle with his own. They stood on the edge of discovery, but the abyss before them felt colder than any shadow. "Jake!" Chad's voice cut through the thick silence, snapping him back. We need to find the truth before it consumes us. The painting loomed over them, grotesque and haunting, its colors swirling as if it were alive. The faces locked in agony seemed to whisper, shadows clawing at the edges of their minds, urging them to look away. But retreat wasn't an option anymore. They had plunged too deep into the darkness. "Remember what that figure said," Jake urged, forcing himself to focus. "This has to connect to the pact, the sacrifices. What are we missing?" As if hearing his thoughts, the shadows around the room thickened, swirling into a tempest. The lights flickered again, illuminating details in the artwork, a symbol hidden in the corners, something ancient. Jake felt the pull, a unique recognition sparking his mind. The Mercer name, it's not just a family name. It's a title. Something more. Around him, his family's faces were a mix of anxiety and urgency. "What do you mean?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling but firm. "They've had their hold on us for generations. We didn't just inherit money, we assumed their burdens." He stepped closer to the painting, feeling the thrum of history beneath his skin. "If we're to break this curse, we have to confront the roots, to reclaim our family from whatever darkness it has nurtured." There's a story. Claire, his mother, gasped. "I remember your grandmother, she spoke of her ancestors, about a sacrifice every generation. It was hush-hush, always a mystery." Jake turned, realization flooding through him, ignited by her words. Maybe each painting captures a moment of those sacrifices, observed by the spirits tethered to our fate. As if answering his conviction, a light flashed over the painting, illuminating a silhouette in the shadows, an age-old figure now visible within the canvas. You must speak the truth of your blood," it whispered, the words trickling through the air like mist. Each syllable weighed heavy on their hearts, anchoring their resolve. "Let us do it. Together," Jake stated firmly. "We need to confront this head-on. No more hiding." The determination surged through his family, a chorus of strength forming with each heartbeat. On the count of 3, Jake instructed, glancing at each family member, locking eyes for solidarity. 1, 2, 3. Together, they shouted, an agonizing confession erupting from their lips. "We acknowledge our past. We accept the burdens bestowed upon us, the darkness and the light. We seek to reclaim our legacy." As their voices crescendoed, the room trembled, walls vibrating with their collective resolve. A wind burst forth, swirling around them, pulling shadows into a vortex that darkened the space. The painting erupted into a fiery glow, illuminating secrets kept for too long, all the despair and sacrifice spiraling into a harmonious image of hope. The shadows screamed, a cacophony of rage and anguish that filled the air. "No. You cannot unravel our bond. It is too late." But the family's cries only swelled, echoing louder until the darkness began to dissipate, the grip loosening on each soul present. "Keep going," Chad yelled, his voice filled with courage. "We're not victims." Tendrils reaching for them began to pull back, releasing their hold as bright light poured into the room, bathing them in warmth and safety. Jake felt it, the weight of generations lifting, the heaviness of despair melting away. Finally, the painting shattered, fragments falling like glittering stars, illuminating the past, present, and future. In that moment, every ancestor, every tortured soul, felt released, unshackled at last. As the light enveloped them, Jake glanced around, meeting the grateful eyes of his family. They were free, truly free from the shadows that had haunted them for so long. "We did it," Sarah breathed, her eyes brimming with tears. "We found the truth." Jake nodded, relief flooding through him. They had fought against the darkness and it had been worth it. They stood united in their victory, knowing that they had redefined their legacy and forged their path forward. Together, Jake whispered, holding his family close, their hearts beating in unison, forever changed by the revelations of that evening, but unbroken. The future was theirs to shape anew. Now, before you go, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this incredible ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your participation means everything to us, so jump in and connect today.